Over the last year, my dream as an individual has coalesced with my work, and this often brings me a sense of immense joy and fulfillment. It is through these personal experiences and also through previous work that I became very attached to the gender equality cause and began striving to make spaces more gender equitable. This, along with an innate curiosity about what work with boys would look like, is what brought me to the Gender Lab, since work with men and boys is not really taken up by many organizations, and this was certainly the first time that I had heard of it. I came into this work with a lens of engaging men and boys in an effort against gender-based violence, but I started unlearning this soon after joining through interactions with the team members and also with the adolescent boys themselves. I can point to a very strong moment for me in an interaction during a policy consultation in this year's Civil 20 forum as a part of the G20 presidency in India, in which a panel member from ICRW spoke about approaching this work with boys by centering their lived experiences with violence and also with hegemonic notions of masculinity. She expressed that helping boys rethink their own relationships with power and privilege through these experiences would culminate in a general redefinition of violence and gender discrimination in their lives. This interaction has really stayed with me as a moment of learning. What keeps me in this line of work with the Gender Lab, though, is the power that I feel in the smallest and simplest moments of change that I am privileged to witness in every workshop. Moments in which a batch that is usually disruptive acts caringly towards a dog or a cat that wanders into the space. Or simple questions asked by boys, like why is it considered wrong for a boy to marry a boy? Or even empathetic observations that they make about their classmates. Like he doesn't speak much, but if you give him a piece of paper and draw a circle on it, he will draw inside of that circle. Are sources of inspiration for me every day. And these are just a few handpicked instances from a very fulfilling time I spent in workshops just over the last couple of weeks. Over the last 2 years, it has definitely been a great joy for me to show up for this work every day. What started as an engagement as a facilitator with adolescent boys has morphed into so much more. I feel I say this too often, but I'll happily say it again that the joy I derive from this work definitely comes from the fact that I find something new to learn every day from here, whether it be from the team, from the adolescent boys, or something new about myself. Through my interactions with the team within spaces of reflection and learning, and also through holding and helping with learning sessions on diverse subjects, including intersectional identities, decoding the recent same sex marriage judgment in India, and contextualizing neurodiversity into our work, I've learned that empathy and care hold immense value in daily life. I've also understood how precious feminist camaraderie can be as an experience, while simultaneously having a lot of fun pushing myself to come up with such terms to work with instead of our binary language of brotherhood and sisterhood that we generally use. Being around the team has pulled me to let go of inhibitions and fear of judgment, and I've truly learned the value of the safe space that we all find at the Gender Lab, and then again strive to create for our participants. With the participants themselves, I've learned that a simple smile or a kind word can really go such a long way. It has been important for me to start recognizing that most children we work with are the most cross-sectionally vulnerable populations in their respective societies, and the feeling of being cared for and receiving affection really adds value to their lives. From diverse participants, I've also learned that giving space is as important as holding space when facilitating sessions. Boys hold a lot in, and given a safe space, it all comes pouring out. The skill of creating that space and receiving their sharings in such a way that they also feel emboldened to try to open up in other spaces is a continuous and treasured learning process for me in this work. Finally, the notion that what is personal is also political comes through very strongly for me in my interactions with the participants. I've had the privilege this year to hold a group called Celebrate the Rainbow, and that is exactly what they did. Through a project on understanding the visibility of the queer community in their spaces, the group interacted with an expert to learn more about queer identities and then held an offline and an online workshop with their classmates and a few adults, respectively. At the end of that process, the group stated strongly that they had learned that the LGBTQIA community does not need our sympathy but our empathy, and reiterated this at every possible instance in their activism. They also made art in which they reimagined superheroes as queer and body positive and showcased their artwork during the workshops that they held. That group and their badge, like so many others, will remain very close to my heart always. Thank you all for giving me the space and the opportunity to share my most wonderful experiences with the Gender Lab Boys program. Back over to Aniket.
Thank you, Niharika. And this quote that you used from your participants and this story is definitely one of my and all of our favorites from all the different project stories that have been enabled in the last few years. And connecting to that, you shared the potential that boys hold in themselves and how important it is to give space to them as well. On that note, to the next exciting part of this session, where we have two adolescent boys with us to share their journey. And Ayush, I would like to welcome you first. Can you please tell us more about yourself and your journey with all of us?
Hello everyone, I assume everyone can hear me. So I am Ayush Rawat. I am currently 17 years old. I am in
Ayush,
12th
you are
grade
on mute.
studying commerce. Yeah, wait.
We can hear him, I think, Nisha. Yes, Ayush, go ahead. Yes.
May I start?
Yes.
Yeah. I am Ayush Rawat. I am currently 17 years old. I am in 12th grade studying commerce. I am interested in finance, about stock market. I have also started earning from it already. When I grew up, I aim to become an entrepreneur. I want to achieve financial independence in my 20s and set an example for those who think that experience and age matters in becoming an entrepreneur. I participated in the year 2019. I was in 8th standard. My experience was wonderful as I got to know very new things about which I already didn't know about. I got to know about toxic masculinity, about different genders apart from men and women, about physical and mental abuse. The program changed my point of view about voice. I am now more sensitive to the problems of voice. For example, as boys, we face a lot of shame and stigma when we share our feelings. This is why I have always had to wear a mask of being strong, which also used to make me feel quite lonely. These are the things which I become aware of because of the Gender Lab program. Many things have changed when I joined to this program. Like now the changes I experience, I treat all the boys equally. Some of the boys around me act like girls, and I talk to them just like anyone else. I find as equal, which makes them feel supported. I explain to those who abuse them by not to by saying not to tease them by saying the things like he really acts like girls, he likes to wear saris and uses ladies' bags. I tell them gender does not decide what you should do and what you should not. When I cried, no one asked why I was crying, but people told me I am not supposed to cry just because I am a boy. I started noticing these things now feel that these normal things for me to do so. Many challenge. I would like to also share the challenges which we boys face and the things we all need the most. From a very young age, I learned that I should not tell my problems to anyone, but instead solve them myself because I am a boy. There was no one available to listen me. This is why, according to me, what we boys need the most is a listener. Boys of my age also fear that people will judge, scold, or laugh at them or not take them seriously if we share our problems. These are some common challenges for boys of my age, and it makes us feel like there is no value for what we want to say or express.
And Ayush, also, can you speak about now, going forward, what do you dream of, and how would you see boys in that new dream world?
Well, I dream of a world where boys are treated rightly. They are free from insecurities, abuse, body shaming, and anything that makes them feel that they don't belong here. My dream world for boys would be a better place for those boys who are not able to be like themselves. For example, I have my own skincare routine that I follow in the morning when I use my face wash and moisturizer to stay fresh. I am told that these things are not for me. It's just for girls. Apart from that, I also want more awareness among boys about the effects of not sharing their feelings and thoughts so that they are encouraged to do so. I want that there should be cooperation, not conflict, and that everyone should be a pillar of support for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush, for that honest, very honest and open sharing from your life. And that was really heartwarming to see that in your own way also you are challenging so many traditional ideas of masculinity and gender, and also supporting others to do so. With that, now I would want Indrajit. Indrajit, are you here with us? And can you also now share how your journey has been in the last few years?
Hi, I am Indrajit. I am a student of Standard 11. I am also a volunteer and head boy in Delhi NCR government program called Prahari Yojana. In this program, I work with adolescents to create awareness around addictions. I love to help others and I like to listen music when I feel sad or lonely. I love to read storybook and play cricket in my free time. I was a participant of the Gender Lab Voice program in 2020. My experience was very good. I learned a lot in the Voice program. There were so many things happening in front of me, but I wasn't aware of those. Like earlier, when I used to give a gift to someone, I would consider whether the person was a boy or a girl. This would give me an idea about what should I give them. But now I feel that just because someone is a boy or a girl, you cannot guess their preferences. As I noticed these little things around me, I got more involved in the boys program. Before joining the boys program, I used to think that boys or men don't cry. They are strong. So whenever I used to get hurt, I used to hide my tears. If anyone saw me crying, they used to say that why are you cry like girls? uh, they they used to say why you are like crying, you're like a girls. Now I'm not afraid to cry or do something I love or that makes me happy. It has become possible. I would like to share two stories from my life with all of you. Here is the first one. When one day I was teaching tuition to some students, I asked a boy, what is your favorite color? He replied pink. After hearing this, all the child start laughing. When I asked them why they were laughing, some students replied, "This is color for girls because Barbies wear pink colored dresses. That's why he is also a girl." I explained to them that there is no such thing, and anyone can like pink color. Then another boy said, "Red is my favorite because it is danger sign, and if you like and he likes the Barbie color which is pink." Then I said that if you like red color, then you can write red, and whoever likes pink, then he can write pink color. This is an example of why I feel that boys my age need people who can motivate them, live properly, and live freely, uh, openly and live freely, do all the things that make them happy without thinking about the society. And here is my another story. Uh, and here is my another story. Share. Uh, so near the place where my father works, There's a lady who does tailoring work. She had two sons and one daughter. One of the boy is studying in 12th standard, and another one isn't interested in studies. He is always thinking about sewing clothes, but this but his father says this is the work of the woman of the house. What will you gain by learning this? He wants him to go and learn some mechanical work in a bike shop or another thing. This is why I want a place where there is a kindness, empathy, and understanding, and there is no discrimination between boys and girls. A world where all boys can do things which they want to do, things which make them happy, but as of now, the society does not let them do. So, thank you.
Thank you, Indrajit and Ayush, for being here and sharing your stories of change. Listening to your stories made us feel hopeful that change is possible. All of this has been made possible thanks to the support and encouragement of schools that allowed us to collaborate with them and teachers who have been actively dedicated to the children they work with. Today, we have one such teacher with us. He has been working towards this cause for the last few years. Inviting Jagan sir to sharing his story. We are very curious to know what brought you to this work, your learning experiences, and your dreams.
Thank you, Nisha. I am assuming all are audible. Uh, uh, Hello, everyone. I am Jagan Prasad. I am from Alwar, Rajasthan. Currently, I manage the Children Parents Program engagement at Vidyanchal Sector 37 school in Noida. In my role, ensure the teachers and parents are working together towards the development of the child. This happens through interactions such as parents, teachers meeting and knowledge building session for both teachers as well as parents. Previously, I have engaged within an organization called IPTIDA, where I work towards ensuring access to education for girls who did not have access to it. I have also run awareness campaign at the panchayat level for women about voting rights. I have a very simple dream, which is to do my best with my role and responsibility in my career, so that all children with whom I have worked with the successfully in their life in whatever way they want. In terms of my work at the school, the gender lab program happened with 8th grade students, and our school speak with kids of grade 9 to 12 on topic around gender. So there already was alignment with work that TGL does not we do. I personally also felt the need to be aware of all these things. Similarly, the teachers of the school also feel the need to talk about issues around gender and sexuality, but didn't know how. TGL programs gave us space to start these conversations with ourselves. Uh, Through the engagement with the gender lab, personally, I am now able to open talk about sexuality and the boy changes and I went through in my young age. I never got a space to have these discussions. So it has been a learning experience to be able to get comfortable with these conversations. The how we raised our boys was the first time the teacher were engaged in such a knowledge building session. After the first session, the teachers also opened up and share about their experience, and they with the different resources were used made feel comfortable to talk about the topics which are usually considered taboo, such as sexuality. We are also to take these resources to our existing program around gender and sexuality with students of grade 9th to 12th. With the children that TGL work with, we have seen in an increase in confidence to speak up about issues that are important to them with different sectors of the society. Another shift we have seen with the regards to awareness around gender is boys recognizing that household chores are as much their responsibility as their mother or anyone else. When I recently interacted with the children who participated in the program 3 years ago, they were able to recall their experience from the workshop, such as visiting the police station for project work, interacting with people in the community, etc. We can also see a shift in the relationship between us teachers and the children. They are able to come and talk to us openly about their issues. A great example of such a shift is that the fact that now girls feel freely talk to about menstruation. Even with the male teachers, girls easily share they need some time off because of period pain. While the male teachers are also comfortable with getting pads for those who needs them. So in many ways, we can see that slowly we are breaking some boundaries and making some progress for the overall growth of children and the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagan sir, for sharing your story. The work that you're doing with your school is a great example of the kind of support system that children need. I guess there are some comments in the chat box. Um that we will be sharing a little bit more about our program specifics. So Aniket will be sharing a little bit more about the program, voice program specifics with all of you.
So just 2 minutes of your time, I'd like to share my experiences working with adolescent as well as students from colleges as well. And so basically, I'll just give you an introduction about myself. So my name is Israel Oliver. I'm from Hyderabad, Telangana, and so basically, I am working in an organization which focuses on educating college students as well as school students, seventh, eighth, and ninth class students from the marginalized communities. And we talk to them and give them information about health, safety, rights, violence, good touch and bad touch. We talk to them about future planning and all of that, along with gender as well as sexuality. So initially, when I was growing up, being the only son, and my mom being this a single mother, I did not know anything about what masculinity is, what gender is, what femininity is, right? So I had no information about it whatsoever. So later on, I did my engineering, and I was working in the workforce engineering sector for quite a while. And then in the pandemic, I decided to do an internship with one of the organizations here in Hyderabad. And that is when I actually realized what the importance of this information is, because I had no idea, right? What is masculinity? Masculinity, so it's just being like a boy, being like a man, acting like a man, right? And what is femininity? I don't know what femininity is, no idea, right? So doing this internship actually opened, whole, a pot of information for me, and I actually realized that I have a lot of masculine features and behavior, as well as feminine features and behaviors, right? So then I decided to completely shift, my career and get into the gender space, right? So when I joined the organization, I started working with these college students and school students as well. So when I started training them and giving them this information about gender, masculinity, femininity, and sexuality as well, right? So many students did not have any information about this whatsoever, right? So I'm taking these sessions for these students, training them, and just giving them this information. And so many students came back to me and said, "Sir, I realize now what masculinity is. I realize now that me being a boy, it is okay to cry, it is okay to feel, and it is okay to show emotion, because initially, before I knew this information, I used to keep it all in myself, and it used to like really affect my mindset, right? So and also like school students coming back to say, Anna, now I am going back home and helping my mother. I am going back home, and whenever I talk to my sisters and my mother about periods now, right? So this lack of information is what I think is the most toxic, if I may say so, and just spreading this information, because let's say I train a few students, they go back and talk about this information to their peers or their friends or their own circle, right? And there was this one student who had actually come back and said that, sir, whatever you had taught me yesterday, I went back home and I was talking to my sister about it. I was just informing her what I learned today, and that actually created a safe space for her to actually open up about her own sexuality. She was his sister was sharing that she's attracted to women, right? So being able to create these safe spaces and giving them this information is what I feel is the most important thing. And just getting that information is life changing, is what I feel. So yeah, just my experiences working in the gender sector.
Truly, truly. Yes. Thank you. And stories are what will change the world, I believe. So
Yeah,
thank you for
exactly.
sharing that. We also have another raised hand, Pilar, if I pronounce that correctly.
Yes, hello, how are you? My name is Pilar. I'm from Peru. I'm an obstetrician, and I love something that one of the panelists said, that men, even men or heterosexual boys, are surrounded by a lot of risk and being unaware of that, because surrounding heterosexual men, there are many myths and beliefs and stigma. Recently, I was working with adolescents of 15 to 18 years old, and another group of people from 25 to 32 years old who are imprisoned. And it was clear for me that they needed love. They needed to be supported. They had the need to have had a loving childhood, and they felt vulnerable, and despite having committed very serious crimes, but they themselves said that, well, many of them also live with HIV, so many of our programs are focused on women or on the LGBTIQ plus community, but boys and adolescents are also there. They are unaware of their health condition. These teenagers told me that the fact that they were heterosexual men made them be forced to have heterosexual relationships, to not use any condoms, or to have more sexual relationships. So they are taking in some substances to achieve this, and they are not realizing that they are harming their health. So this message of having boys undergo risky situation due to these dehumanizing situations is very interesting. Many times we don't realize this. When I started working with these imprisoned persons, I realized how much love they needed, and that they have not been able to give love either, because they are a population that apparently have everything at hand, and that we actually have to focus on other vulnerable populations. Of course, they are vulnerable, but it's also necessary for us to convey this message to other sectors to build these new roles of what being a boy means, so that these boys are not at risk, and that they are the role models, the example of how they can discuss with their parents and say, I am a man, but but a man can be this. A man can be a person who takes care of himself, or a person that respects women. So I think it's really necessary to work and to study what are the effects on sexual and reproductive health of teenagers or heterosexual men. So definitely, I think this could be a powerful tool for us to change those behaviors, those negative attitudes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pilar, for bringing in that lens of intersectionality where this group of men is excluded for such a reason, where I think the prison system is I think punishment based, as we say, and coincidentally I will be speaking briefly about how that also works in the context of our work. And thank you, Maria, also for sharing your thoughts and experiences around this. So as Nisha said, we can move on to the next part, which is the specifics of our program and how we try to create the kind of change that we envision. The Gender Lab Boys program is a program which we started with the objective to create a safe space for boys where they can express themselves. And at the same time, we can also build awareness about how patriarchy impacts them, while also talking about the privileges that they are holding in this patriarchal society as well. Through the course of the program, of course, we also try to challenge the rigid ideas of gender and masculinity that they have learned from their childhood. To do this work, we take the service learning model, approach it from the service learning model. What it means is that we do this work through activities and conversations in sessions on the themes that are specified over there in the on your slide. And at the same time, after the discussions and conversations are over, we ask boys in smaller groups to take up projects in their communities. Those projects they choose are around the kind of issues that they observe in their community, which could be around bullying, around different types of gender-based violence, or the rigid ideas of masculinity that they face in their school as well as community. Now, the principles on which I think, this intervention has been designed is first by centering the values of freedom, love, shared power, and care on our programs. So here, what we mean is that first, as an approach, we sit in a circle and we try to sit down if possible, so that the dynamics of teacher and student that exists in a school is not there between us when we are going and facilitating our programs. Secondly, we try that we involve the students themselves in doing some kind of norm setting, so that we all know that these are the norms that we have collectively decided on and that we won't break them, right? One more thing we try, but which is a bit difficult, is asking the students to call us by name and not use any other designation when they are addressing us, which they are not really used to. But it again breaks the idea of what respect looks like, right? Where we have been taught that we respect our elders, and the same is not really expected back. And lastly, a very pressing issue in the school system of India is one of corporal punishment, which is widely normalized, even though it is illegal. And we try to have alternative approaches within our design so that we refrain from any kind of corporal punishment at all. After that, of course, we focus our content on the experiences of boys and not use a lot of jargonized language or terms. So that, because a lot of times during the session or just before the session or every day in their lives, different instances of violence or there are different ways in which rigid ideas or stereotypes around gender and masculinity show up in their lives. So what we try is borrow from those experiences and then talk about those. We already read a story today collectively, and what we also try is use more of those in our program. We have learned that both real and fictional stories have their own power, where real stories do some kind of role modeling, where they see alternative portrayals of masculinity and gender that they can look up to and learn from, while fictional stories open up some kind of imagination and possibilities for all of us. And lastly, something that is widely talked about in this space is the need to engage with an intersectional approach. Here, we believe that the experience of every person, every individual, and every participant is different. And even though we have a loose structure of design that we follow, we try that we are able to address the needs of all children. For example, the example that also Niharika used, where we can see that there are different kinds of engagements that work for different kind of participants. So how do we ensure that we have, for example, some writing as well as drawing and physical activity, as well as some deep reflection. So all of that combined together. And here are things that we have been able to do, or the impact that we have been able to create. In our work, we have been very fortunate to have been supported by a monitoring and evaluation consultant, Probex Consultancy. And with their help, we identified 3 indicators on which we wanted to measure the impact of our program. The first one of them being identifying norms of masculinity and gender stereotypes. And in the last program cycle, we are happy to report that 3 of these were achieved in some way or the other. For example, the shifts that were observed were based on the common notions that boys see and experience in their community and school. For example, whether it is okay for boys to cry or grow long hair, such indicators we did see a shift in our logic model with with regards to violence. We felt that that violence is so normalized that boys don't recognize it at all. And we saw that after the program, boys did show an increased awareness to violence and also to the different alternative non-violent actions that can be taken in certain situations, be those between the boys themselves or in other cases. The last indicator that we had identified was that boys recognize that unpaid care work is actually work. And the shift we saw is that boys are recognizing that household chores such as cooking or washing clothes is work as well. The thing that we have not been able to see is whether boys are actually now taking up that work as well and sharing the load. So that is something that we haven't measured. Another methodology that we have in our program is that we use some feedback forms during the closing towards the end of the session. And we also ask boys to reflect on their experiences of the entire program. And there we saw that across the last few years, boys are able to get a language to their experiences, especially of violence, where during a session, they are able to say, look, here, these boys are practicing gender-based violence, or they are doing verbal violence, physical violence. So those are some kind of shifts that we are able to see, and we strive to keep doing. You can also see one of the reflection drawings in our background where they are talking about the difference between man and woman, or the kind of verbal violence that they see in their community. And now on to the learnings. Again, another thing that everybody in this community of engaging men and boys feels strongly about is the need for long-term approach for sustainable change. So that because the kind of short-term program that we are able to run right now probably will not yield the kind of results that we want. Secondly, very specifically, that the monitoring and evaluation results showed us is that we need to have and evaluate an alumni engagement model, which is again connected to the first point, so that we can see that the long-term changes that we think we will see, are those really getting translated or not. Right now, Nisha will also speak more about the How We Raise Our Boys program, but it was pointed out to us again by the MNE that working with boys and educators in the same school is important if we are to tackle the corporal punishment that we are seeing. And only then we will see alternative strategies being implemented in the school. It was a very interesting insight from our monitoring and evaluation that boys know violence is wrong, but as a solution, what they are doing is, their idea is to upward delegate the violence instead to their adults, be those the teachers or the parents or someone else. So if we are to tackle this, then we definitely need an approach where all the stakeholders are involved as well. And lastly, in terms of unpaid care work, while boys believe that they should engage, they don't feel the same about their fathers. So to have a community level or family level change, we also need to engage with fathers directly, so that they are also participating in unpaid care work and doing some kind of role modeling for their children, where they are seeing and learning as well. And in this program, lastly, the challenges. First, the school system in India is a difficult one to work with, because in subtle as well as quite outright ways, the school system is one that is also reinforcing the gender stereotypes. In India, academics is a big thing, so their focus is more on the students getting the right marks, and our program becomes something that is an add-on and something probably they don't necessarily need for a school to excel. And that is why it becomes difficult to get time from the schools to deliver our program. We have also faced backlash in multiple ways, where sometimes schools have told us to not have certain conversations, or they have told us to disallow students from taking certain projects. Those could be around the LGBTQI issues, or some other that the community there could find sensitive. And here, of course, there is the added layer that schools fear backlash from the parents as well, because they are the ones who are answerable, and we are an external organization that would come do the program and leave. Another challenge that we come across more often than not is of what will bring boys together to challenge their privilege and engage in this work deeply. Which is because of which we also see sometimes that boys don't complete their projects or don't find a topic that is personal to them to work on. It is easy for them to say, take a project on safety of women, but in that it becomes a task for us to also have a conversation around how men and boys are accountable for this kind of violence. So here, that is one challenge we are facing. And lastly, there's a team of facilitators that includes all of us who are delivering the program. We witness a lot of violence that can affect us in many ways. At the same time, we also face violence in many ways from the school system as well, which is based on the identity of our facilitator. And we have a constant struggle as to how we navigate these with the school, while also keeping the children at the center of this. Because as soon as we are not able to do the program, it's the children, of course, get affected and whose experience is incomplete in a way. Now we already, as an organization, we also realize that we should engage our alumni after the program, after the 8th grade program is over. And here we tried different things previously, and in the last 2 years, what we are doing is we are having 2 representative participants from each school, bringing them together in their locality from different schools and engaging them around building awareness and creating a space where they can ask their questions about sexuality. Even in the program in 8th grade, we realized that they have a lot of these questions that we are probably not able to answer because of the limited scope and time that we have in the program. So in the last 2 years, each year we have engaged around 25 to 30 boys. We would like to do more, but we are really, I think, just perplexed around how do we scale this program while also currently continuing with the 8th grade program as well. So that was all about our work with adolescent boys and how we do it. Now Nisha will take us through the How We Raise Our Boys program as well.
So before I share about how it is a boys program, just want to check in with all of you how everyone is, because it's a lot of information to take in, and everyone is sitting like in same position like for more than an hour now. So if you want to just like maybe change your position, check in with your heart, and it's an invite for you all just to take a deep breath in and exhale, and then I can move ahead with the How It Is a Boys program. How We Raise Our Voice program is a multilingual hybrid program for educators who work with children. This program took birth as a 5-part online webinar series that was organized in response to certain gender discourses going on in India on social media in 2020. We held this online webinar series exploring conversations on gender, masculinity, unpaid care work, consent, internet, social media, and the role of caregivers for adolescent stakeholders. The responses and questions we received from the webinar led us to imagine continuing this at a program level with educators. India being a country with diversity in culture and languages, we have been implementing this program in 9 regional languages along with English to make the conversation accessible to a larger community. So I'll be sharing learnings and challenges in a collective since it's kind of interconnected. We'll share a little bit about the design of the program. So it has evolved since we started. We now have a 3-4 days module in place, which has been working. The structure of the workshop starts with understanding self in the context of gender, masculinity, and then we build knowledge on the same, followed by the exploration of the tools and practices that educators can implement in their own classrooms. We have been building this work with a resource person from diverse backgrounds as opposed to a standard flow of content. They bring their insights and support us to the contextualize of the workshop to being able to curate a conversation that is meaningful for the group. So leading to modules learning and its challenge would be that we hold this program online for 2 hours each day for 3-4 days. And since last year, we have been inclining more towards in person. That is about like 5 hours each day for 3-4 days. In-person workshops have been more effective and valuable for participants learning wise, since it's more connected when we meet in person and learn together. It has been seen that there are less dropouts than online workshops, but it has its own challenge. Being a budget heavy model and the availability of educators has been this crucial challenging part which we have been figuring out. Since in-person demands more time from educators, it gets difficult to bring educators together for such a long program. Or even for online workshops, we see more dropouts of participants due to tech inaccessibility, less accountability, and their hectic schedule. And since this module requires resources, stories, tools, we have been finding a challenge to find resources for regional languages and resource person for the region of the language. Another learning is being that this whole program, the external support is the key to this program. And also just want to what Aniket has shared, that what we have found from monitoring and evaluation, that long-term approach for sustainable change. Similarly, in How We Raise Our Voice program, we have been trying to figure out the learning together community where interested all participants of the How We Raise Our Voice program can sign up to exclusive workshops to continue their learning journey together. And we have been able to figure out, we haven't been able to figure out the structure of the community yet. Currently, all participants have been able to stay connected through our Learning Together WhatsApp group. And some of them have moderated our new How We Raise a Voice program workshops, the intention being to enable a learning curve to their journey. We have also seen some of the participants and resource persons collaborate with each other, and this program is being able to help them to network. Okay, so if you can see, there are like 2 monitoring and evaluation pointers are there, and I can read it out loud for you all. So first, this is last year's M&E monitoring and evaluation impact we had. The majority of educators who participated in the How We Raise a Voice program reported experiencing a change in their perspectives and attitudes toward gender. Second being is one educator said that she started to make girls and boys sit next to each other instead of segregating them. And she also started engaging in conversation with boys consciously, which she wouldn't do earlier. Okay, Aniket, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So there are few reflections on the screen. Some like one of the from Bhojpuri language and Tamil language. Um, and also I would like to take a pause here and just if you can maybe read it. And I can pause here and just share a hope for this program. We want to see such a world through this work. If someone shares about their gender identity, likes, boundaries, sexuality, they'll have people who can listen with acceptance, with love and care for all the colorful and unique individual identities and choices. And having a kind of space for a dialogue to navigate shame, curiosities, and all kinds of questions. Okay, now we have some space where we would like all of you to share your reflections, questions, any thoughts around today's session. Yes, Vidar, I can see you raised your hand.
Yeah, sorry, was it to share in the chat or to speak?
Yeah, you can share like this also.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so amazing to hear you. And I've heard Aniket present before, but I got more details now. And it was fantastic to hear from you, participants and teachers, and yeah, all of that. Amazing. One thing that really strikes me is how clear you are on girls' rights, women's rights, also LGBT plus and everything, and you're outspoken and clear in that from the start. And I have a question there, because in some contexts I find it difficult to start there because it raises so much resistance, and then my strategy have been to kind of bring it in later when the participants have become more open and realize what gender norms are doing to themselves and so on. But I can imagine that there is a lot of resistance in your context as well. So how did you come to choose this strategy, and how come it's working so well as it seems? Can you say something about that? It's very brave and straightforward, and I just wonder, are you losing a lot of people because you do that, or are you actually? It seems like you succeed. It's great to hear more.
Thanks, Vidar, and it's really nice to see you. I spotted you right in the beginning, but to answer your question, so we don't have a very, I think we don't have a lot of space in the workshop to talk in detail about the queer community. We talk about gender identities in our first workshop, and based on that initial conversation, in some schools we have a very detailed conversation if they have the questions. In some we don't. So that is really on a case-to-case basis, which is same for the backlash as well. In some schools, if we have a very accepting school and the principal, we will see that they are quite okay with us taking these topics. And this year we also had topics around sex work and creating awareness around that, building awareness around that. So there are schools that are quite open, and there are schools with whom we also have to, I think, keep navigating until we are able to build an experience for the boys and the group that has taken up certain topics. So I hope that answers your question, but yeah, we try to keep being as brave as possible, and as you said, not lose people in the process, and keep doing our program. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yes, we have a question in the chat box. So yes, MK, yeah. Yes, so right now we don't have a very specific, what can you say, module where we talk about or address caste and masculinity or caste and gender. We are in the continuous process of understanding that better. And yeah, I mean, that's all so far. I think one thing we have been able to do is the diverse set of facilitators that we have. They bring in their own knowledge and their life experiences into this work. That includes having facilitators from marginalized communities of religion as well as caste. So that is one thing that we have been able to do, but we don't go a lot deep into addressing caste in our work with men and boys. I hope that answers your question. Parents and caregivers. Yeah, again, I think it is a lot to do with the school and the kind of parents that we are dealing with. I remember one of my co-facilitators getting a call directly from father of a student saying, what are you teaching my boy? That boys can dress however they want. This is not, I think this is not how we do things. I mean, those kinds of things. But we try to have a conversation where we want to, again, the common goal for the school, the parents and us is the development and improvement and well-being of the child. And that is the common ground that we try to keep seeking with the people we are dealing with. So, of course, it doesn't always work. We still have to sometimes let go of some things. But yeah, I think that's where we are right now in terms of this. Maria, you had a question, I think?
Hello, and thank you very much for the very interesting talk. And I was really admiring your reach into schools. It's really large. But I had a little question for the two young people speakers, if I may. And it was this. At the weekend, I noticed here in the UK that all of the Premiership football teams wore an LGBTQI rainbow armband. And I just wondered, what do the young people think about that? And do they like that kind of support, or do they think it's tokenistic? And I suppose what would be meaningful in your country? Would it be football or cricket, or where would you like to see that inspiration come from in your context? Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Just allow me to also translate it for them in Hindi so that I am sure that they have understood the question properly. So आयुष, इंद्रजीत, मरिया का आपसे सवाल है कि अभी लास्ट वीकेंड जब फुटबॉल मैचेस हुई इंग्लैंड में तो उन्होंने रेनबो आर्म बैंड्स पहने थे LGBTQ कम्युनिटी को सपोर्ट दिखाने के लिए. तो उनका सवाल ये है कि आपका इसके बारे में क्या ख्याल है? आप इसको मानते हैं कि सिर्फ नाम के लिए हो रहा है या इससे कोई सपोर्ट सच में जताया जाता है? So if you can answer this in English, it will be great. If not, then maybe you can share in Hindi and then I can try to translate in English. So Ayush and Indrajit, if you can speak one after the other.
Yeah, sir. So my opinion is, think so that players like Messi are also supporting. They are making videos of LGBTQ, supporting LGBTQ community. So it's really working. It's not just a show. And they are really trying to show that LGBTQ community can be future.
Okay, thanks Ayush. Indrajit, do you want to share?
Same as Ayush. I also like the opinion of Ayush. I am agree with.
I could say if these big influencers are taking initiatives, there must be something in the LGBTQ community which a world is not seeing.
Totally, yes. Thanks, Ayush. I think we have Atika with a raised hand as well.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, the Gender Lab, for such a wonderful presentation. I am a research scholar from IIT Kanpur, and I'm working on gender. And here I am engaging with communities, adolescent communities, the NGOs that work with adolescents. And I have been thinking about this for quite some time for developing a program, and that's how actually I came across the Gender Lab. And I'm in the process of formulating a workshop or some sessions. I wanted to know if you could share some insights on how to develop a program, and also your experiences with the adolescents while on the field. Some insights if you could share.
I think I will go back to the design principles here, and before that also, when we had a similar collaborations with some organizations who wanted to start this work, we also thought it is a good idea to do some kind of need assessment with the community you intend to work with. Some of these organizations that we have worked with already had a women and girls engagement program in place, and they wanted to start working with boys. So what we also thought is that they do some kind of need assessment there. And yeah, the design principles are something that we go back to usually. And in terms of also giving you a very detailed answer, because also we are a bit short on time, maybe I can also leave our email ID in the chat box and we can connect on this later in detail. But yeah, I think those are the things that come off the top of my mind from the experiences that we recently have had.
Thank you, Aniket. Please do share the email ID. I would reach out to you because I'm working on it and it would be really helpful. Thanks a lot.
Alina, yes.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm also in the Gender Lab team, but I just wanted to bring the attention back to MK's question on caste, because Aniket and I were recently part of this conference with people working on masculinities in India, and we were discussing these very questions because we have so many intersections, right? This caste, religion, this ability, so many factors. It's important. So we're also learning that programming and program designing needs to start to look at gender within those intersections and within those crosscuts. So that's an ongoing longer journey for all of us to be learning how to do that and not look at gender in silo as an identity or an experience or something that exerts its power in terms of how we navigate our lives. So it's an ongoing journey, and the effort is to learn, even though how we do not directly introduce those conceptually to children. How do, when issues come up, we are able to locate it at the intersection of gender and caste, gender and religion, gender and ability along in the conversation. So it's a learning curve that's ongoing for us. So just wanted to share that. And would be very happy to hear from other organizations from India how they navigate this as well. Just wanted to bring attention to that. Thank you.
Okay. Also just to want to check in with others if anyone has remaining like thoughts who really want to share, or we can close the session for now. And I would invite all of you, if you can share in one word or line, a wish, your wish for boys and men who want to redefine masculinity. I'll just share it in the chat box also. Aniket, I guess there is one question around projects of young girls and teenagers because of climate change.
Okay, I think I'm just picking this up. Thanks, Nisha, for bringing attention to that. Yes, so I think it was last year that we did a project with the alumni girls of our community around, I think, visibilizing the gendered effects of climate change. And that is one effort that we have been able to do. And we are trying to bring our attention more closely to the intersections of gender and climate change. But so far in our work, this is one thing that we have done with specific focus. Apart from that, the projects that I spoke about with boys, even girls take up similar projects, and their projects often intersect with climate change, because sometimes they want to improve the condition of garbage disposal in their community, or work on pollution in their community. So such intersections keep playing out during the project phase with girls program as of now. And
so Aniket and Nisha, I'm gonna, if it's okay,
yes.
we run out of time.
Yes. Yes.
And I know we could go on for a while, but we have run out of time, everyone.
Thank you.
So if there's any last words that Aniket or Nisha you want to say before we wrap up? No?
Just I guess thank you to you and Men Engage team for giving us the opportunity to share about our work with all of us here, and to all of you who has been sitting very patiently and enthusiastically to listen to all of us. We have shared our email IDs here, so feel free to reach out to us if you have any other thoughts you wanted to share.
Great. So thank you, everyone. I just echo what Nisha was saying. Thank you to everyone for being here, to all the speakers. And so with that, we'll say goodbye and thank you, everyone, for joining, and take care, and we'll see you again soon.